The LaLaurie Mansion, New Orleans, Louisiana. Madame Marie Delphine LaLaurie was a Louisiana socialite known for hosting ritzy soirees in her decadent Creole mansion in the French Quarter of New Orleans during the early 19th century. Guests gorged on fine food and champagne, unaware of the grisly scene unfolding 2 floors above. When local police responded to a kitchen fire in 1834, they discovered the bodies of several horribly mutilated slaves in the attic. When the public learned of LaLaurie's grotesque secret, a mob stormed the house, prompting her to flee to France. Soon after LaLaurie disappeared from New Orleans, people claimed to hear the phantom screams of her victims spilling from the house in the dead of night. The LaLaurie Mansion is now privately owned and doesn't offer tours, but several city tour operators, such as Free Tours by Foot and Go City Tours, include a stop at the Royal Street Mansion on their itineraries. The Shanghai Tunnels, Portland, Oregon. Portland was one of the most dangerous ports in the United States during the early 19th century and was the epicenter of an illicit maritime practice known as Shanghaiing, a form of human trafficking. According to local lore, swindlers preyed upon unsuspecting men in the local saloons, which were often outfitted with trapdoors that deposited the victims directly into a network of underground tunnels. These men were then supposedly held captive, drugged, and eventually transported to the waterfront, where they were sold to ships as unpaid laborers. Some worked for several years before finding their way back home. The tunnels are said to be haunted by the aggrieved spirits of the captives who died in the dark recesses beneath the city. Portland Walking Tours and the Cascade Geographic Society offer guided tours of the Portland tunnels, where visitors get a sinister history lesson in the dark. Don't worry, they provide the flashlights. Eastern State Penitentiary, Philadelphia. This menacing Gothic-style prison opened in Philadelphia in 1829 and became the first in the U.S. to implement solitary confinement, a hotly debated practice. Prisoners languished in gloomy stone cells with virtually no human contact, with hoods placed over their heads anytime they were moved. Proponents of this system believed that solitude would lead to penitence, which would ultimately result in rehabilitation. Critics, on the other hand, believed it incited emotional anguish comparable to physical torture. The so-called Pennsylvania system was replicated in several other states and in Europe. When the prison closed in 1971, it is believed that the ghosts of the inmates took back the prison. Visitors claim to see their apparitions wandering the corridors and hear mischievous whispers in abandoned cell blocks. Eastern State Penitentiary offers daytime tours year-round, as well as special events. If you're feeling brave, visit during the fall, when the decommissioned prison transforms into terror behind the walls, one of the top haunted houses in the country. RMS Queen Mary, Long Beach, California. This retired ocean liner sailed the Atlantic Ocean from 1936 to 1967. During her first 3 years at sea, the Queen Mary carried Hollywood celebrities like Elizabeth Taylor and Audrey Hepburn and dignitaries like General Dwight Eisenhower. Her days as a luxury ship were short-lived, however, and in 1939 she was stripped of her amenities and began her second life as the Grey Ghost, a World War II trawap ship. At the conclusion of the war, she was restored to her former glory and traversed the Atlantic for nearly 2 more decades. On Halloween 1967, the Queen Mary departed on her last cruise, eventually docking in Long Beach, California, her final resting place. The ship is reportedly haunted by the spirits of those who died aboard, such as the young sailor who was crushed to death by a door in the engine room, and a crew member who was murdered in cabin B340. The Stanley Hotel, Estes Park, Colorado. One night in this hotel nestled in Colorado's mountain wilderness inspired Stephen King's best-selling novel-turned-horror film, The Shining. Massachusetts couple F.O. and Flora Stanley opened the isolated resort in 1909 and reportedly never left. According to staff, Mrs. Stanley can be heard playing her Steinway piano in the music room at night, and Mr. Stanley occasionally shows up in photographs. There have also been reports of bags being unpacked, lights turning off and on, and echoes of children's laughter heard in the hallways. Paranormal experts hail the Stanley Hotel as one of the nation's most active ghost sites in the U.S. Book a room at the Stanley and spend a night with the hotel's permanent guests. You can also purchase a Ghost Adventure package, complete with your very own Red Room mug. Too spooked to spend the night? Book a day tour or brave the nighttime ghost tour. Visit during the Halloween season and enjoy special events like the Red Room Mystery Dinner or the Shining Ball.